Shocking revelations. Why Archangel Michael couldn't defeat Leviathan at midnight. The moon hung high and full, shimmering like a silver coin tossed into a well of darkness. It was a night when the air crackled with tension and secrets, where the line between reality and myth blurred. At the stroke of midnight, whispers floated through the valley, saying that Archangel Michael was locked in a cosmic battle with Leviathan, the serpent of chaos itself. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, yet something was amiss. How could a being of pure light be thwarted by a creature of shadows? Something flipped inside, like a switch flicking from light to dark. At the center of this eerie showdown stood Michael, his wings a brilliant blaze against the inky sky. But his brow furrowed. His sword, glinting with heavenly might, felt heavy. Was it doubt? Fear? No one had ever seen such an expression on the face of an angel. The clouds roiled above, swirling with unnatural energy, almost taunting. People below gathered on hills, clenching their fists, hearts racing, watching as the very elements twisted into an ominous dance. A thunderclap shattered the silence, and gasps echoed through the crowd. And then Leviathan emerged from the deepest abyss, scales shimmering like oil caught in sunlight. It coiled around the remnants of forgotten truths and ancient tales. Its eyes blazed like molten fire, hungry and intelligent. Many felt a cold shiver run down their spines. It was as if the air itself had turned to ice. Who could possibly hope to defeat such a creature? As the battle raged, not even the bravest could look away. They felt it in their bones, an inexplicable dread. Michael swung his sword, but the darkness seemed to absorb the light, leaving a palpable sense of confusion. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As dread built up like a storm on the horizon, a flicker of doubt crossed Michael's face. The battle felt endless, a cycle of hope and despair spiraling deeper into chaos. The whispers of the onlookers surged. Why can't he win? Why is Leviathan so strong? Each word was a knife. Each question hung in the air, sharp and unanswered. The fear was palpable, many were convinced this was the end. But then, in a blink of an eye, a strange light flickered above Michael's wings. Could it be a sign of divine help? Or was it an ominous omen of failure? As the first rays of dawn threatened to break, uncertainty spread like wildfire. Something was brewing, and somewhere in the depths, the shadows were conspiring. What hidden truths lay beneath the veil of battle? Would Michael finally conquer Leviathan, or was the world doomed to succumb to chaos? As the drama unfolded, the question lingered: who would emerge victorious, and at what cost? The air turned electric, charged with anticipation. As the first strands of dawn crept over the horizon, Michael felt an unsettling awareness wash over him. His gaze darted toward the sky, where the veils of darkness trembled and shifted. There it was again, that flicker of light above his wings, pulsing as if echoing the heartbeat of the universe. He gritted his teeth, pushing aside the gnawing fear at the back of his mind. This battle could not end in darkness. Leviathan coiled nearby, its massive form undulating like a living shadow. The ground trembled as it shifted, a monstrous grin spreading across its scaled face. You fight valiantly, Archangel, but hope is a fragile thing. Look at your followers, they quiver like leaves in the wind. Its voice dripped with malice, reverberating through the valley, striking deep into the hearts of the onlookers. From their high ground, the crowd murmured anxiously, faces pale with dread. What does it mean? A woman cried out, her voice slicing through the oppressive silence. Why can't he just defeat it? The uncertainty was palpable, a tangible weight that pressed down on every soul. Even Michael felt it, resonating in the deep chambers of his heart. There must be a way, he thought fiercely. He needed clarity, he needed to understand why darkness was thriving against light. He raised his sword once more, gripping its hilt so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Let me see your heart, Michael." Leviathan roared, its eyes burning brighter as it spoke. "You wield a sword of light, but your heart is shrouded in shadows. What secrets do you conceal?" In that moment, recognition flashed through Michael. A chill ran through him. It wasn't just the battle with Leviathan but a battle within, a confrontation with his own doubts. He remembered his past, the decisions he regretted, the times he could have acted but stood still. Leviathan wasn't merely a beast, it was a manifestation of his fears and failures. As he hesitated, the air shifted, swirling violently around them. Dark energies surged, spiraling up from the depths of the earth, clutching at his very essence. The whispers grew louder, mocking him. "You were meant to be stronger, yet here you falter. Your humanity makes you weak." Desperation clawed at him. He needed to push past these revelations, his people were watching. Michael's wings flared, energies converging in vibrant hues, pulsing with renewed determination. But every beat of his wings echoed Leviathan's taunts, reminding him of the weight of despair. With a roar, he lunged forward, desperate to strike true. Yet just as he swung, a sinister laugh filled the air. "You think you understand me? I am the darkness of your soul, Michael. You cannot vanquish me until you embrace the truth." The words pierced through him, connecting with those whispers in his heart, the fears he could no longer deny. But amidst the chaos, a glimmer of hope began to emerge. Maybe there was strength in vulnerability, in recognizing his flaws. As dawn broke completely, bathing the valley in warm light, Michael pivoted dramatically to face his monstrous adversary. "Then let us confront this truth together," he shouted, his resolve solidifying like armor. The ground trembled as the energies intensified, both dark and light crashing around them like a storm. The battle was far from over. What sacrifices would Michael have to make to emerge victorious? In the rising light, the shadows shifted and coiled. As they danced wildly around him, the truth loomed larger than Leviathan itself. Would confronting his inner darkness bring him redemption? Or would it seal his fate in eternal chaos? All eyes were locked on the two figures, the angel bathed in radiance and the monstrous serpent swirling with shadow. The world held its breath, sensing a climax to the tempestuous duel. But the question lingered ominously: who would claim the final victory, and at what cost? With a roar of defiance, Michael launched into the air, the sunlight glimmering through his outstretched wings. His feet barely touched the ground before he surged toward Leviathan, hatred and determination merging into a single force. The monstrous serpent twisted and coiled, its shadowy form rippling like dark water. "Face me!" Michael bellowed, sending a wave of light from his sword so brilliant it pierced through the dark veil surrounding them. But Leviathan laughed, a low, rumbling sound that vibrated in the marrow of Michael's bones. "You think a mere flicker can quell the storm?" The beast lunged, jaws agape, and the world shrank around Michael as he avoided the monstrous bite only by a hair's breadth. The crowd gasped, their breaths caught in collective disbelief. Even as reassurance danced in his heart, he could sense their fear, a fear that mirrored his own. He was fighting not just for victory, but for them, for the hope they had placed in him. It felt like a weighty mantle, suffocating yet igniting an unquenchable fire in his core. "Remember!" Leviathan roared, spinning around him as the light from Michael's sword flickered. "You alone created these shadows. Your choices birthed me." With that, Leviathan unleashed a torrent of darkness that pulsed toward Michael, coiling around him like a serpent ensnaring its prey. The blackness wrapped around him, and panic surged within. He gasped, feeling the shadows bite at his wings, pulling him down, suffocating hope. "No!" he cried, shoving against the oppression. But in that moment of struggle, a memory hit him. A child he hadn't saved. A friend he had pushed away. Every regret, every failure flooded back, creating a tempest of despair that dulled the light he fought so hard to amplify. "You think I'm your enemy?" Leviathan hissed, its eyes glowing with triumph as it tightened its grip. "I am you. The darkness you refuse to acknowledge." Murmurs from the crowd grew louder, scattered voices that questioned his strength. He falters. Is he losing? Every word struck him like a dagger, sharp and stinging. The weight of their doubts pressed against him, threatening to crush his spirit, but within the depths of that darkness, a flicker stirred a lingering echo of the hope that had first ignited his ascent, the unity of those who believed in him. The faces of his followers, their faith unwavering, surged to the forefront of his mind. "I am not just my mistakes," he shouted, a fresh surge of power washing over him like a tidal wave. "I am my triumphs, my love." With a mighty thrust, Michael summoned the light deep within him, merging it with the essence of every life he touched, every moment that brought him joy. His sword erupted in an explosion of radiant light that shattered Leviathan's grip. The dark tendrils recoiled, shrieking as the brilliance blinded the serpent momentarily. "Now, you shall face your own truth," Michael declared, seizing the moment. He thrust his sword forward, aiming directly at the heart of the darkness that pulsed within Leviathan. The serpent writhed, caught between the light and the shadows it wielded. Michael could feel the air thick with desperation, a struggle mirrored in the crowd's collective gasp. They held their breath, unaware that in this moment lay the power to tip the scales, but just as his sword was about to pierce through, Leviathan howled in fury, the sound ripping through the air like a thunderclap. "You may challenge me, Archangel, but know this battle is far from over." As the ground shook violently, reality twisted around them, and a blinding flash of light erupted, engulfing the scene in brilliance. Silence fell, and for a moment, all was lost in the brightness. When the light faded, the valley lay empty. The crowd, the battlefield, it had all vanished. Only Michael remained, breathless and bewildered, standing on a precipice of uncertainty. Had he triumphed, or had Leviathan merely retreated to strike again? With questioning eyes, he gazed into the abyss where darkness lingered, and doubt began to creep back in. He clenched his fists, heart pounding what was hidden beneath this new stillness. Was Leviathan truly gone, or was this a trap? In the emptiness, a whisper echoed back at him, chilling his soul. "The truth is yet to be revealed." And just like that, Michael knew the battle had evolved. It had morphed into a war not just of light against darkness, but of self against self. As he stood upon that precipice, the next challenge loomed dauntingly close. What lay hidden in that abyss, waiting to define him? Michael stood at the edge of the abyss, tension pulsing through every inch of his being. The stillness of the valley felt wrong. His heart pounded like a war drum, echoing the uncertainty in his mind. Had he done enough? Had his moment of bravery been merely a flicker in a vast darkness? The whisper still echoed, haunting him. "The truth is yet to be revealed." A bitter chill ran down his spine as he recalled Leviathan's words. Doubt started clawing at him like a hungry wolf. It fed on his fears, gnawing away at the hope he had just ignited. "What lies beneath?" he muttered, stepping forward, the ground trembling slightly beneath his feet. Each movement felt heavier, like the weight of invisible chains. The abyss yawned, an infinite void where shadows danced in eerie synchrony. It beckoned him, daring him to confront not just Leviathan, but everything he had ever hidden away. Suddenly, the ground erupted. Forms began to emerge from the darkness, figures wrapped in tattered robes of despair. Faces he recognized. Each one a person he had failed. The child he had been unable to save. The friend he had abandoned. Each ghostly visage held accusation in their hollow eyes, haunting reminders of his failures. "Michael!" a voice called out, twisted by pain. "You let us down." The words shot through him like arrows. Joy turned to guilt, and guilt turned to sorrow as their haunting wails amplified, surrounding him in a cacophony of regret. He stumbled back, hands raised as if to shield himself from their judgment. "No!" he roared. "I fought for you. I tried." But doubt wrapped around him again. The voices merged into one resonant accusation: "You are incomplete. You are light that falters." With each syllable, the echoes of their disappointment grew stronger, amplifying the shadows. Anguish clawed at his heart, tight and suffocating. He felt himself slipping away, drawn into the very darkness he fought against. In his turmoil, Michael realized this was Leviathan's true power, not just to unleash fear, but to conjure the shadows of his own regrets. Yet, amidst the chaos, a single thought broke through: he had loved them. He had fought to save them out of love. That love radiated within him, sparking like a dying ember searching for breath. "But I loved you," he yelled, summoning every ounce of strength. "Your lives mattered. My mistakes do not define me." The figures paused, confusion washing over those sorrowful faces. Michael took a breath, feeling the warmth of truth pulse through him. "You are part of me. I will not let fear conquer love." With that declaration, Michael summoned the brilliant light once more, forcing it to spill from his heart into the darkness that threatened to consume him. The shadows recoiled, and for an instant, the whispers faded. The faces of regret began to shimmer, morphing into reflections of hope. They transformed, becoming luminous, their former sorrow replaced with a collective strength. The ground vibrated again, but this time it was a song, a chorus of resilience rising from the abyss. Michael's wings unfurled, catching that fleeting light. He propelled himself upward, the point of his sword glimmering fiercely against the dark void. "Stand with me!" he shouted, blending his resolve with their haunted memories. "Let us rise together against the shadows." But just as he ascended, a roar erupted from the abyss, a ferocious reminder that Leviathan had not been defeated. "You think you can escape so easily, Archangel? You are merely stoking flames that will engulf you." As the darkness surged again, Michael knew he had awakened something far more fearsome than he anticipated. Every ounce of light he summoned flickered, his energy waning under the beast's relentless onslaught. He spread his wings wide, a desperate attempt to shield himself from both Leviathan's wrath and the shadows that lurked within. "Face your fears and embrace the light," he screamed, determination rippling through him even as Leviathan's darkness clawed for dominance. Then, with a roar that shook the very heavens, Leviathan unleashed a final, devastating assault. And Michael braced himself for the inevitable collision of shadows and light. What would he become in that moment? Would he rise or succumb to the darkness that threatened to swallow him whole? Michael's heart raced as Leviathan's roar shook the very foundations of his resolve. A shroud of darkness lashed out, wrapping around him like a serpent, squeezing tighter with every anguished breath. He felt the warmth of his light flicker, like a single flame quivering against an all-consuming gale. "No!" he shouted, a primal fear clawing at his throat. He had come this far. He would not let Leviathan extinguish him now. The echoes of doubt still haunted him, and yet, he did not falter. He had faced his regrets, and he could face this, too. With every ounce of strength, he pushed against the crushing darkness. A surge of light exploded from his core, pushing back against the shadows that threatened to devour him whole. The abyss roared, defiant, as tendrils of black smoke writhed and recoiled, hissing like a wounded animal. "You fool, you think light can shatter the truth within?" Leviathan's voice twisted around him, a chilling reminder of the creature's power. Michael felt shadows slipping through his fingers, trying to reach for the parts of him he thought had healed. But in that moment, a spark ignited within him, a sparkling glimmer of hope. He summoned the faces of those he had loved and lost, their strength, their pain, their devotion. "Your lives mattered," he cried again, louder now, every syllable an echo of fury and love intertwined. As if sensing the shift, the shadows recoiled further. Leviathan roared, fury twisting the creature's features, and in that instant, Michael saw it, the truth of Leviathan, wrapped not in darkness alone but in the pain of betrayal, an agony mirrored within himself. "Everything you fear," Leviathan growled, the beast hovering ominously. It will consume you. No! Michael shouted, determination igniting within his chest. You will not control me. The realization throbbed in him. Leviathan thrived on fear, pain, and regret. Michael's light was not merely a weapon, it was a sanctuary, a refuge against despair, but the abyss was vast, and Leviathan's shadowy claws swirled around him, gripping tighter than ever. Michael could feel the pressure, suffocating and oppressive. A single moment of hesitation could tip the balance. He focused on the light, visualizing it as a mantle against the encroaching darkness. Together, we fight. He roared, channeling the glowing energy into his sword. It shined and pulsed like a heartbeat, amplifying his resolve. He swung the blade into the dark mass, each strike echoing with the valor of those he had loved. The shadows writhed at the contact, momentarily pushing back, but Leviathan wasn't finished. With a surge of malice, the dark creature lunged forward, eyes burning like molten steel. You are not the light, Archangel. You are merely a ruse, a flicker in a storm. I know your weaknesses. The weight of those words hit Michael like a fist, unraveling old wounds. What if he was just that? A flicker? What if, deep down, he would never be enough? Doubt threatened to crush him, but he forced it back. You may know my past, but you will never own my future. He yelled into the howling chaos. The air grew thick as he harnessed that duality of light and darkness, his wings spread wide, shimmering with a radiant glow. He felt connected to the struggle, woven into the fabric of this fight. As Leviathan charged, Michael summoned everything within him: his love, his pain, his mistakes, and released it as a brilliant lance of light. This ends now. But suddenly, the abyss twisted in response. Shadows erupted around him, forming an impenetrable wall that loomed larger than before. Breathing heavily, he realized he wasn't just facing his enemy anymore. Something stirred deep down within him, a truth he had buried even deeper than his regrets. In that moment of realization, something shifted, and the path ahead seemed darker than before. What other truths awaited him within the shadows? Would these revelations bring him the strength to fight, or would they consume him entirely? The darkness surged, rippling across the ether like pulse waves of a distant storm. Michael could feel it pressing in, congesting the air around him with a weight that clamped down hard on his chest. He strained against the all-encompassing shadows that seemed to know him intimately, whispering his fears like an insidious lullaby. With each heartbeat, the truth began to unfurl in his mind, a truth that threatened to unravel everything he thought himself to be. Where was the light he summoned? Why did it feel so frail against the tempest of Leviathan? Your light is a flicker, insignificant in the shadow of my power. Leviathan's voice coiled through the darkness, a chilling wind that made the hairs on Michael's neck stand on end. Despair clawed at him, but he couldn't surrender. No way. Those he loved were counting on him. As the words of the beast echoed in his mind, he confronted the most daunting reality. Was he truly just a flicker, a fleeting moment of brightness extinguishable at any second? He gritted his teeth, fighting against the rising tide of self-doubt. Yet in that chaos, a flurry of fragmented memories erupted within him. He recalled the laughter of his friends, the warmth of their embrace, and the moments stitched together with love and joy. As if sensing his moment of vulnerability, the shadows around him twisted and writhed with glee. You see it now, don't you? You're a hero created from the ashes of regrets. Without them, you are nothing. No! Michael shouted, voice cracking under the strain. I am more than my past. He could feel the warmth of his light flickering anew, a defiance burning within him that fought against the icy tendrils wrapping around his throat. Ah, but what if you embrace it instead? What if you surrender to me? Leviathan's voice purred with mockery. Join me, and together we can consume all light. A shiver raced through Michael's veins. The temptation was real, the sweet promise of power calling to him. But it was a lie, a dangerous lure wrapped in silk and shadows. No! He roared, louder than before. He recalled the faces of those who fought alongside him, their sacrifices refusing to be shackled by despair. I will not submit to your darkness. Finding strength in his conviction, he drew upon every ounce of light he possessed. It surged through him, more vibrant than ever. With a flick of his wrist, Michael summoned beams of luminous energy that shot forth in brilliant arcs, illuminating the shadows that wrapped around him. But instead of retreating, they lashed out, a cyclone of pitch black seeking to snuff out his incandescent glow. The roar of Leviathan echoed again, more furious this time, reverberating around them like an approaching storm. Foolish Archangel, Leviathan hissed. I will show you your darkest secret. In that split second, Michael felt at the sharp edge of pain slicing deep in his heart. Images flickered in his mind, loved ones he couldn't save, battles lost, promises broken. A crushing weight aligned with his every breath, and suddenly, he found himself facing a specter shaped by guilt. Do you see? Leviathan's tone shifted, becoming soft, almost soothing. You are the architect of your own anguish. Accept it. Sorrow flooded Michael's thoughts. Could he truly fight back against the truth of his missteps? The glow surrounding him dimmed slightly, threatened by the shadows clawing at the edges of his resolve. He staggered, the weight of his grief anchoring him in place, everything spun out of control. Was this the price of light? Wasn't it always easier to yield to darkness? Self-doubt wrapped around him like a thick, suffocating cloak, leaving him gasping for clarity, but just as he thought he'd drown in despair, he heard them. The laughter of his friends, their voices mixing with the shouts of resilience. Fight, Michael. You are not alone. It was a lifeline thrown through the dark waters. Gathering strength from that tether, he wiped the tears from his eyes and unleashed another surge of brilliance. You will not take me. I will not be owned by my fears. But as Michael faced the abyss, doubt shifted again. Those truths lingering behind him grew sharper, and he realized, could the shame of the past become a source of his power? What happened if he faced it head-on? Just as he prepared to embrace this unknown path, the shadows coiled back, boiling with anticipation, waiting to dance with his deepest secrets. What awaited him in that treacherous embrace? Would it be liberation or chains anew? The shadows tightened, constricting around Michael like serpentine coils, whispering sweet nothings that turned bitter in his gut. Every flicker of light he conjured seemed to test the depths of his resolve, each beam fought against the omnipresent darkness, yet Leviathan's laughter echoed like a mocking chorus. You are so very naive, Archangel, the beast taunted, voice like steel grating against rock, slicing through his defiance. You think strength comes from ignoring pain? No, it comes from merging with it. Michael struggled to keep his feet planted against the relentless tide of darkness, feeling the ground beneath him shift, morphed by currents of despair. It was a cruel dance, this tug-of-war between his flickering light and the heavy shadows that seemed to swell with each pulse of his heart. I will not become what you want me to be, he shouted back, though doubt gnawed at him, as savage as any beast. The memories surged again, each more vivid than the last moments where he faltered, where he let down the ones he cared for. Faces contorted in pain flashed before his eyes. Each one pierced his spirit deeper than the last. Do you think they love you still? That they would follow you again after the chaos you've wrought? Leviathan's voice slithered through the shadows, insinuating itself where it could do the most harm. You are nothing to them, a mere ghost of true heroism. Stop. Michael raged, shaking his head to dispel the haunting images. The laughter, the love, those weren't mere illusions. They were real, invincible. That connection was what fueled his resolve. Summoning every ounce of strength, he pushed out a wave of light, its brilliance attempting to scatter the encroaching darkness. The light collided with shadows, hissing and sputtering, and for a moment he glimpsed a battle, a frantic struggle to reclaim his past while standing firm in his present. But Leviathan was relentless, a tempest that wove through the fabric of his mind. Why fight when you can revel in liberation? The beast cooed, darkness swirling to form images of clarity mixed with chaos. What do you fear? The warmth of acceptance? Michael felt his heart plunge. Was acceptance what he sought? Or was it merely surrender, an insipid way to escape the choices he made? Each flicker of his light felt like a weight he'd have to bear alone. Remember their pain, Leviathan purred, remember your failures. They'll bind you until you can't breathe. The shadows danced closer, teasing him with promises of release, not just from the burden of his quest but from all pain, all regret. The warmth of his light flickered once more, battling against the thrill of that promise. Suddenly, a vision surged forward, his friend, Sarah, tears in her eyes after he failed to save her brother. It crushed him. I can't let her down again, he whispered, feeling the anguished weight coiling tighter around him. Yes, let that misery in, Leviathan rumbled, satisfied. Embrace your darkness. But here, in this maw of despair, a thought ignited. What if he didn't push it away, but instead, transformed it? What if guilt could fuel him rather than chain him? What if this darkness could lead to a different sort of power? In that moment, amidst the chaos, Michael didn't just resist. He took a breath, steadied himself, and focused on those painful memories. Instead of recoiling, he wove them into his light, transforming shadows of grief into strands of resolve. The ground quaked, resonance echoing as light began to merge with the darkness, creating a spectrum of both pain and strength. But just as he thought he grasped it, a sickening roar erupted. Leviathan spiraled toward him, an embodiment of rage and fury, a vortex of hatred that threatened to consume everything in its path. Fool! The beast's voice was a tempest, towering over him. You think you can blend the light and dark? You will fail. The reality of the promise hung in the air. Balance could bring ruin or salvation. In that split second, Michael felt both hope and dread surge through him. Stand with me, or perish as a flicker. Leviathan thundered, eyes blazing with malice. Michael opened his arms wide, feeling the oppressive darkness press close against his skin. Would this be his descent into oblivion? Or a rise into something new? As he squeezed his eyes shut, focusing on the swirling essence of his fears and memories, he dared to ask the question, could he truly become the master of both light and dark? The storm was coming, would he be ready when it arrived? The shadows whipped around him, a chaotic maelstrom threatening to swallow everything whole. Michael's heart thundered against his ribcage, a steady drum of fear and anticipation. He could feel the sinewy darkness teasing the edges of his mind, urging him to succumb. But he held firm, a sliver of defiance flickering deep within. Did you really think you could wield both light and dark? Leviathan roared, his form shifting like a serpent coiling, growing ever larger and more imposing. You are not strong enough to carry that burden. Give in. I can grant you peace, a solace rarely found. Peace? Is that what you call surrender? Michael shot back, his voice cutting through the tempest as he summoned every remnant of will he possessed. What you offer is a lie dipped in good intentions. With a newfound resolve thrumming through him, Michael stretched out his hands, commanding the light he so desperately needed. It surged forth, a brilliant surge igniting from his chest, illuminating the abyss around him. But it was an icy light, the warmth of hope was still mingled with the chill of despair. And then he heard it, a voice, faint yet distinct, like a whisper caught on the wind. Michael, it was Sarah. That ghost of regret licked at his thoughts, driving him deeper into the memory of her pain. In that fragmented grief, inspiration flickered. Sarah, I won't let your pain be in vain. He shouted into the swirling void. Suddenly, he envisioned her face the way her smile could light up even the darkest days, shattered by the weight of loss. I will embrace this, all of it. Your memory, my failures, they will be my armor. The shadows screeched as Michael's resolve ignited within him, a blaze that fought against the suffocating darkness. Each pulse of light surged through the air, illuminating the landscape around him, revealing the horrifying yet beautiful truth behind his fears. He was not alone. He had never been alone, Leviathan recoiled, the force of Michael's light causing fissures to form in his shadowy form. No. You're a fool. You think your innocence can protect you? The rage in Leviathan's voice pushed Michael further, stoking the flames of his growing determination. I'm not innocent. I'm flawed, I'm broken. But every crack, every scar has made me who I am. Instead of fighting, I will embrace this. In that moment, as the essence of his grief and the light intertwined, a vibrant spectrum exploded outward, a dazzling whirl of color that sliced through the murky tendrils of shadow. Leviathan's howls transformed into pain, his body twisting as if caught in a vice. But Michael, with a heart full of memories and remorse, could feel the power building, threatening to shatter the remnants of the dark entity's resolve. You are not my master. I define who I am. Just as victory seemed to grace him, a formidable power surged from the depths of the shadows. The air crackled with energy, something was shifting, turning. Leviathan swelled, exuding an aura that seeped through every crevice of Michael's fledgling light. What do you think you have unleashed? Leviathan's voice boomed with a menacing edge, a mixture of amusement and rage coating every syllable. This is merely the beginning. I will show you the depths of your true despair. Michael felt his breath hitch, the dangerous gravitational pull of the darkness intensifying around him. Something else stirred within, an echo of fear. A question loomed: would he have the strength to withstand not just the beast, but his own insecurities? As the shadows curled and slid up his arms, he could hear whispers of his deepest fears, insidious voices clamoring. Would he succumb? Or would he claw his way back, refusing to allow darkness to snuff out the glimmers of hope within? The storm was alive, and it was hungry for more. A new battle was set to ignite, this time not just between him and Leviathan, but within himself. As Michael clenched his fists and prepared for what was to come, one thought rang clear in his mind: the very next moment could determine everything. Would he break, or would he finally rise? What pain waited to be unleashed from the shadows still lurking at the edges? The shadows intensified, swirling in a frenzy that clawed at Michael's skin, biting cold and fierce. He felt their touch, unwelcome yet familiar, like the lingering regret of unspoken words. Focus. He told himself. He had to channel the chaos into clarity, or risk being swallowed whole. Leviathan's laughter echoed, sinister and mocking. Do you not understand, Michael? You're merely stoking the fire of your own destruction. Look at you. You think this light will free you? He lunged forward, dark tendrils snapping through the air, and Michael braced himself. Shut up. He shouted. The roar of his own voice momentarily drowned out the shadow's whispers, those taunting fears that crept into his mind. You're not the one in control. He reached deeper, calling upon the light once more, but this time with a heavy heart. A memory surged, fierce and unyielding. Sarah's laughter, the way it mingled with the sunshine. But then the laughter faded, leaving behind a wound too raw to touch. I can't let your light fade away too, he declared, forcing the warmth of that memory to infuse his light. Suddenly, Leviathan noticed. The darkness pulsed, struggling against the surge of light driving back its tendrils. You think a flicker can hold me back? Leviathan roared. The shadows twisted, writhing in response to the contrast of Michael's defiance and hope. For every flicker of his light, the depths of Leviathan's rage grew, becoming a cyclone of noise and fury. Let me show you, boy. Fear. Despair. You are nothing against what awaits you. No. I want to live in fear. Michael roared back, summoning all the energy he could muster. The shadows clawed at his resolve, pulling him back into doubt. Faces of the past began to dance before his eyes, failures and mistakes emerging from the dark to torment him. He saw friends he had let down, opportunities lost, and the anguish of Sarah's passing, raw and powerful. Enough. He yelled, fighting against the tide, his heart breaking. In that brokenness, a realization struck him like a bolt of lightning. Those memories heavy and haunting were not shackles to bind him but rather pieces of his truth. They could be his shield. In my pain, I find strength. He shouted, as a brilliant light erupted from him, refracting the shadows into a million splintered images. The chaotic dance of Leviathan faltered for just a moment, but those moments come at a cost. The shadows lashed back, hitting him like a tidal wave. Michael gasped, the breath knocked out of him as dark energy invaded his spirit, feeding on his fears. Memories morphed into nightmare visions. Sarah's laughter twisted into cries, his friends fading into faces of blame. "Stop!" he screamed, overwhelmed. But then, amidst the swirl of despair, a small flicker of warmth bounced back in his chest. This is not the end, he thought, fighting against his fear. He closed his eyes, focusing inward. Michael, remember who you are. Sarah's voice echoed again, surging with a power that drove back the shadows for a brief moment. The light within him flared, brightening as he recalled not just his love for Sarah, but how she had always believed in him. She was my strength, he whispered, the flames of hope licking against the darkness. She taught me to face my nightmares, to honor pain through love. With each breath, he infused his light with that truth. The shadows hissed and recoiled, but Leviathan was relentless. You fool! You think those memories will help you? They are chains, binding you to the past. Maybe. But they also light my way forward. As Michael's resolve solidified, the ground shook beneath him, and Leviathan's form lunged towards him, a monstrous silhouette that sought to consume anything bright. Yet, just as Michael prepared for a final clash, he felt a pulse, a heartbeat of something greater, like a warning shot that reverberated through him. What is this? He wondered, feeling the earth tremble. The shadows swelled again, and he realized, the darkness wasn't just Leviathan. It was a manifestation of everything he had ever feared. And the battle wasn't just to defeat Leviathan but also a deeper struggle to conquer his own torment. Who will you be when the dust settles? Leviathan's voice licked at his ears, taunting and powerful. Will you be just another broken soul lost in the depths? The air thickened with tension as Michael took a staggering step back, facing the choice laid bare before him. Could he truly rise from the darkness swirling internally? Would he finally learn to fight against both Leviathan and himself? Each heartbeat echoed with urgency, as the shadows danced dangerously close, threatening to engulf him. The next moment felt pivotal, an unseen edge ready to tip into chaos. As the storm raged and the shadows whispered, Michael could only cling to the last remaining thread of his own will. The time to confront his demons was now. What horrifying truths awaited him once he fully faced Leviathan and the darkness within? Would he yield, or fight through the inevitable storm? The atmosphere felt electric as Michael stood on the precipice of his own reckoning. The shadows loomed larger, swirling around him like restless phantoms, murmurs of despair clawing at his resolve. It's time to confront you, Leviathan, he growled, his voice steady against the tide of encroaching darkness. You are a mirror of my fears, but I refuse to be defined by them. As if reading his thoughts, Leviathan roared, what do you think you can accomplish? You think mere words can quell the storm within? The beast lunged forward, its massive form thrumingly powerful, a torrent of shadows intent on devouring the light. Michael steadied himself, summoning that flicker of warmth ignited by Sarah's memory. No more running, he said fiercely. Embracing my truth is my strength. In a moment that felt like eternity, he felt the energy of every soul he had ever loved washing over him, and the shadows flinched as if struck by a mighty wind. He could almost hear their whispers of encouragement, urging him to stand firm. The light cascaded from his core, shimmering like the dawn breaking over a dark horizon. With every pulse, he wove together all that he had faced: regret, pain, and love. They converged into brilliant strands of hope, vibrant and unyielding. Leviathan's eyes flared with rage. You think that radiant flicker can defeat me? I am Legion. Your sorrow feeds my power. With a furious swipe, it unleashed a wave of darkness, each tendril coiling around Michael, whispering promises of despair and resentment, trying to bind him in chains of his own making, but Michael's resolve only strengthened. I won't let you define my fate. He roared, flaring his wings wide, the light illuminating the terrain around them like a bolt of lightning striking across a stormy sky. The shadows faltered, recoiling as he channeled every ounce of light within him, infusing it with love shining bright against the choking darkness. In that moment, as light clashed with dark, something extraordinary happened. The very fabric of the shadows began to unravel, revealing echoes of his past memories intertwined with pain and beauty. Michael saw Sarah, saw the joy of their laughter, but also felt the weight of unfulfilled promises. It was a duality he had long avoided. Could the darkness be embraced instead of fought? Did he dare to weave together the moments of joy with the weight of sorrow? As the truth washed over him, the shadows twisted and writhed, trails of darkness burning away like mist under the morning sun. You cannot bear this truth. Leviathan howled, its voice no longer a force of terror, but now tinged with desperation. Yes, I can. Michael shouted, feeling the surge of warmth fill him as he stood firm against the void. I will own my pain and my love. I will merge the light and dark. With an explosion of brilliance, he thrust his sword forward, a voracious lance of radiance aimed straight at the heart of the darkness. Leviathan's roar echoed through the valley, shaking the very core of reality as it lunged, closing the distance. You think that amalgamation can defeat me? I will consume it and you. But as their forces collided, a cacophony of shadows crashing into light, Michael's heart soared with a clarity he had never known. He embraced the love he had felt, the hope, the despair, it all became part of him. In that surrender, the shadows began to break apart, dissipating like smoke blown away by a fierce wind. Every harsh whisper he had internalized crumbled beneath the power of acceptance. The confrontation reached a fever pitch. The air crackled, time suspended, as the very essence of light intertwined with shadow. In one final, furious clash, Michael roared with every breath he possessed, I will not fall. In a flash of blinding light, the darkness shattered, fracturing into a million shards that filled the sky, transforming into a dazzling display of cosmic brilliance. The remnants of Leviathan roared with fury, losing its shape, disintegrating into countless specks of shadow that fluttered away like fallen feathers in the wind. Silence enveloped the valley, a heavy blanket of stillness after the storm. Michael stood alone, breathless and altered. He felt the warmth of dawn spill over the landscape, painting everything in hues of gold and crimson. The battle was over. With each crack in the sky, the remnants of his past of sorrow and love fused into something new, illuminating the soft ground beneath his feet. He was free, not only from the darkness of Leviathan but from the chains that had held him captive within himself. He had transformed pain into power. As the sun rose higher, Michael's heart glowed with a newfound sense of purpose. He turned to the sunrise, feeling the warmth seep into his very soul. I will walk this path, embracing both light and dark, he whispered, feeling the whispers of reassurance in his heart. The memory of every face he had loved swirled within him, a constellation illuminating his spirit. He would be a guardian, a protector, forever aware of both the shadows and the light they cast. With a steady breath, he soared into the sky, a beacon of hope against a dawning day, no longer just an archangel but a testament to the strength found within vulnerability. He would carry their stories with him, an eternal flame against any darkness that dared come his way. Now, what are you waiting for? You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories we have coming up. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the light shining. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the twists and turns you've just witnessed. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support and be part of this incredible community.